Morning. Uh, Facebook, we can't help but notice that Facebook has been in the news a lot lately, and not necessarily in a good way. Personally, I've always been, at best, ambivalent about Facebook. The first time in my first incarnation with Facebook, I used my given name, and it just didn't feel right. I just didn't have it wasn't a good place for me. It didn't, people I didn't want to connect with who didn't want to really hear about, choose to move on from different aspects of my life. Anyway, a lot of issues came up. So I decided to escape the network. And let me tell you, those that haven't tried, this was 4 or 5 years ago, it was difficult, bordering on impossible. But persistence, ignoring the many messages from them telling you all the connections that you're missing, because if you click once within the 2-week period, you're back up and alive. And I really suspected that it never really stopped. They still had me. But anyway, my students they were excited about Facebook at that time. It was new for them, and they wanted me to be on Facebook in a way that we could connect with each other, a way that they could let me know that they were going to miss class, or just a means of communication. So I started one again, reluctantly, but I used my Chinese name, which afforded me a certain amount of anonymity among people from my past, while allowing people in the present and the future to connect with me as they have come to know me by my Chinese name. The latest buzz about Facebook is that, it started off as really a benevolent organization, a means for us to connect, but it's turned to malevolent. They're using our information and selling it to not only the highest bidder, but any bidder apparently. So they saw this process from benevolent to malevolent, and they kind of say, well, why in life, why does it seem that something starts out good and ends up bad? It seems that way because you choose to look at it that way. Okay? But I suspect the genius of the founder was that he could capitalize on the people's desperateness to connect and utilize that, create a spot where they will surrender all their private personal information willingly, voluntarily, which he saw as the golden goose that would collect this information and sell it. So I believe that it started out malevolent. But what I'm asking myself, the reason I'm talking about it here is that if it's so that something that seems benevolent becomes malevolent, can it be the other way around? Could it start off with evil intents, but could some good ultimately come out of it? And I contend that it all lies in how you look at it. For me, I have 2,000 friends on Facebook. But yet, the reality is that I spend most of my talking time talking to our cat. And you know what? He's a really good listener. But anyway, you see the irony there that I have so many friends that I've connected to, but it's really it's really our cat that is there for me. Isn't this interesting? And I know that I'm not in any way or form unique, and I know that many of you share the same thing. But I have this to say to Mark. Bring it on, Mark. Sell those advertisements. Sell, money, money, money. You'll find that it's a hollow. It's a hollow end game. But I leave that to you. But meanwhile, bring it on. Because you know what? We've gotten, as a people, really good at ignoring ads. We're bombarded constantly, but we don't even see them. In the NBA, they started putting some advertising on the uniform, but you know what? I don't even notice it. All my Outlook, all my emails, just advertisements everywhere. Every app that I use that's free is loaded with ads, but I've ignored it. Other people specialize in software that will filter that all out. But I've just learned to apply my own filter. So I don't feel that big turmoil about, I'm getting ripped off, he's stealing my information. Because after all, what information do I have that in the long run is worth much anyway? It's information about a false entity, an illusion. So that's part of the finding humor, part of laughing at the situation, as opposed to crying. Having brought up my cat, I'd like to continue on in this vein. And I'll come back to Facebook, okay? Because there's a point in all of this, I think. But my cat comes to bed with me early in the morning. And we listen. We lay in bed and we greet the morning, each in our own way. And it comes in 4 o'clock or so, after he's had his breakfast. He comes into bed at about 4:30, comes on my bed, and we listen. He settles down. We listen. There's loud noises, motorcycles, the early birds, that motorcycles and cars that break the stillness as night approaches dawn. Then there's the roosters, which I've grown to love instead of being annoyed. What used to annoy me, roosters crowing, now it's just part of my morning. Laying there, looking out the window. And our cat responds to the noises of the big noises, and he jumps up, his ears poke up, and he just settles down again and just accepts it. And the dogs are always barking in the morning. I don't know what's going on with dogs. The dogs are always barking, and he looks up and he just kind of dismisses them with disdain. Like in his brain is going, stupid dogs, just bark, bark, bark. Bark, bark, bark. Just make noise. And he sighs and lays back down. But when the birds get up, The birds start making their rounds. The birds looking for breakfast. The birds celebrating the morning. Oh, then he perks up and he even shakes, and he doesn't move, but he shakes, and then they'll come and land on the window ledge, and that's like the birds are torturing him somehow. Torturing him somehow. They know that they're safe. And he's just, and he's shaking, and you can just watch the primal. He's like a lion or some feline wild animal who wants to catch the birds. And his frustration is almost palatable. You can almost see it. But you know what? He takes a deep sigh, followed by a yawn, followed by putting his head down and drifting off to sleep. So you see, he tolerates me. He lets me live in share the space with him, because he needs me to clean his cat box and feed him. So he tolerates me. But at times like this, I realize he's teaching me. He's frustrated. Nothing he can do about it. I'm frustrated by the condition I find the world in. But I should just learn from him. Take a deep sigh, yawn, and take a nap. So, learning from my cat. Now, Facebook again. I've debated long and hard to get off Facebook, and even in my new account with my Chinese name, just closing it down. But then I think of what's good when I open that. I like to look and scroll down, and I do look and scroll down, and I want to say that I used to end up, I end up with this vague feeling of frustration. And it has something to do with connecting yet not connecting. Somewhere in there. Don't want to analyze it too closely. But in the spirit of what my cat's been teaching me recently, I now look at Facebook. I find my dear friend Matthew Lien promoting his career, his singing career, championing wonderful causes for the indigenous people and for nature, sharing his beautiful family with us, his children, his son that he's so proud of, his other children. He created a persona with his long hair and his little beard. And I enjoy seeing him and seeing what he's up to. He's a friend in the flesh. On the other hand, I have people like Dennis Harris, who's a Zen practitioner, and he posts the most inspiring and beautiful. I don't know where he gets those pictures. Most incredible pictures that he posts that are really capture the message that he's attached to them. Very thoughtful. I can see so much work finding and where these pictures come. Incredible. Not only are they top-notch professional pictures, but they're just so relevant to his posts. And he includes words of wisdoms from adepts and masters. He adds his own wisdom, less often than he quotes masters. But his voice is there too. Beautiful, Dennis. Keep up the great work. Inspiring. I don't know how you do it. I salute you for all your efforts. To somebody like my friend Per from Denmark. Per is social consciousness, and he posts the most interesting socially conscious posts, and it keeps me up to date of that there are people and things, and that there are great things going on. So thanks to you, Per. His wonderful wife, Judy, shares about her endeavors to educate Taiwan's youth. She's incredibly active, and she shares. She's truly a networker. She shares this upbeat, because for me, nothing's more upbeat than educating children, youth, and people. So thanks, Judy. To someone like an old friend and brother, Rainer, who's posting things from 30 and 40 years ago that capture his view of Hawaii when he left, surfing, and just really wonderful family stuff. And Rainer, kudos to you, man. Thank you for the flashbacks. And then there's people like my buddy Duger Parrish, a fellow Hawaiian at heart, who's in Kending, and he shares surfing, great surfing videos and surfing stuff, which is really hits home to just watch. Nothing more beautiful than surfing in the waves and communing with nature. But he also has an amazing take on the local culture around him. He's immersed in the culture with his children, and he shares his children and their growth, and he shares his experience in the, most time for me, confusing and chaotic local celebrations of life. So, Duger, you're awesome. Anyway, I'm sure I'm overlooking some people. My own brother, Jim, is always posting health things and do it yourself, and building houses and building tables and building furniture and all the things that he's in love with. And he also shares the surfing. But he shares parts of his shop, he shares parts of his life. He puts it out there when he has time on Facebook. So, thanks, Jim. So, maybe you're beginning to see where I'm going with all of this. I started out ambivalent at best, dropped out of Facebook, was resurrected. See the ironies and the foibles, the connect and disconnect. Sorry, Taiwanese friends, I forgot to mention, thanks for all your posts. The posts that I used to think, oh no, who cares? Now I see in a whole new light. You're sharing the two most important things of Taiwanese culture, Chinese culture for that matter as well. Food and family. So all those pictures of food, showing me your breakfast, showing me your lunch, and thanks for showing it. Before you dive in and eat it, I'd like to see the presentation, because food and presentation are so closely connected, and all the family and friends and your activities with them, your travels, your celebration with grandma or grandpa, the whole extended family together. Thank you for sharing. So you can see that I've kind of had a resolution within myself. I choose to see the good things on Facebook. I choose to dismiss all the other benevolent. I'm only interested in finding the good. I don't have to look for the bad. It usually finds us, doesn't it? But the point is choice. We get to choose. The only thing we get to do is choose how we react. There's nothing else. Everything else is out of our heads. So, lessons learned. Thanks, Mark, for providing me this opportunity of growth. Thanks, Kitty, for number one, tolerating me, and number two, teaching me to, when faced with frustration, when faced with things that was not in my power to change, to yawn, stretch, and take a nap. How can you go wrong? But today, I was wanting to talk about spiritual credentials. And what prompted this talk was Facebook, so that's why all the Facebook stuff. Recently, I wrestled with the idea of creating a page for Zen with a Smile on Facebook. I've been doing YouTube stuff, and it's been a growing, great experience. But I thought, I want to grow. I want to offer whatever I have to as many as I can. And it's motivated by compassion. I don't want anything in return. Fulfillment for me is the efforts I make to make these videos, to get them out there. I'm hoping one day that I could have a physical place. Zen with a Smile could have a place that people could come and meditate and gather and talk, share. But for now, I have this electronic avenue. But the process of posting the page, I came up with some really interesting things. And again, it became a learning experience, because when I got going down the form, okay, and again, I don't like directions, I don't like forms, but I say, I want to accomplish this, I want to set up a page. I've decided that to overlook my reservations, that there's probably more benefit than harm to open up a page. So I went down the list, and I know that when you're feeling that if you miss something or want to skip it, you don't allow it, because it bounces you right back to that. So when it came to category for Zen with a Smile, I was really torn between, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but religious is a social, political construct for basically control. And it does all the things, separate, divide, all the things that's an anathema for me, the things that I don't want to be part of. So here I found myself looking at the categories, and I was torn between, do I put spiritual there's no spiritual, I suggest there would be, but do I put religious organization, or do I put entertainment? This was my decision of the day yesterday. or 2 days ago, I don't know how long it's been, maybe yesterday, time flies. The decision of the day was, am I a religious organization or is this for entertainment? And I really lean towards entertainment, I have to tell you, but I thought, some input I've got is that don't laugh too much, this is spiritual stuff, you gotta be somber, but the whole idea was this, let's say with a smile. But if you're laughing, and it might seem cavalier, and people might think that, might misunderstand that being relaxed is different than not caring. So anyway, to make a long story short, I checked religious organizations. But now when it shows up on my page, I just say, oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And another thing I learned that don't be so quick to click. I make a choice. I was trying to picture the profile picture, and I went through some pictures and some choices until I got it one that I thought, well, this is both for the both opportunities, the panoramic in the background and the personal. I don't know the nomenclature. Pardon me if I don't know the names for things sometimes. I'll know them when I need to know them. And if I don't need to know them, I'll never know them. I won't remember, but they're there in there somewhere. Anyway, Facebook chronicles your missteps. I click on something, it'll show up. I click on it again. I say, oh, he changed his profile picture. Click again, profile picture. So, gotta be clear before you click. Pick before you click. Okay. So these were learning, but I love how Facebook freezes your missteps to share with everyone. I can take a joke. But the religious organization, how to categorize what I'm doing, brought me to the meat of this chapter. 27 minutes in, I'm getting to the meat. But it's about spiritual credentials. Credentials are important. To be a doctor, to be you have to have credentials to be a professor. You get your master's degree and your PhD and this. We got to get credentials all the time, and we usually wear them as initials attached to our name. Well, the people I always respected wouldn't call themselves their professors. They wouldn't call themselves Dr. Soba, Dr. Wang or Dr. Ching or Dr. No, they would call themselves professor. I don't have a white coat and a stethoscope. MD earned the title of doctor. I was respected. What's wrong with professor? But without the initials after your name. But credentials, most people find that very important. Oh, yeah. In fact, I'm sure as I'm speaking that somebody has already done a dissertation or is doing a dissertation on the Facebook phenomenon. So someone will get a new credential based on their research and writing about Facebook. More credentials. But the two people that I admire most that I must have been exposed to and that I admire the most in the spiritual world, people who I've really studied deeply and watched and listened to everything or almost everything that they have available, are two. And neither claim credentials. Sadhguru, who I just love for his thinking and his use of the language and his caring and his message. Just really well done, beautifully presented. And Adyashanti, who again, no credentials that he advertises, and he shares. And it's clear and beautiful. And I've had an opportunity to be in the room with him and listen to him talk, and he just has a presence and a really connected Sadhguru. He's somebody I'd like to at least be in a big hall and feel his charisma personally. But neither of them promote their connection to a lineage, which traditionally, it established your legitimacy. It was your credential. Who was your teacher, and all the way back, and they could trace it back. And this tradition seems to have been pretty much broken in our modern times. Our connection with the past is this search for credentials is not so as important as what we have to say and how we say it. And it seems to me, time will tell, that neither of them will create a new lineage and leave some designated person to take over their work. My first teacher, Paramahamsa Yogananda, never dedicated, never picked someone, never created a lineage. He celebrated his own lineage because his path, Bhakti Yoga, was through devotion, devoted to his teacher. But he also taught devotion through yourself, inward directed devotion through yourself that would end up with the ultimate expression of what is. But he didn't create a lineage. He had a man named James Lin who took over the organization, but the mantle wasn't passed. And like I said, it remains to be seen if Adyashanti, our Sadhguru, will pass the mantle, will create a new lineage, because neither has recognized a previous lineage. They've recognized places and things and people that were important in their own awakening. And another thing that I really appreciate about both of them is they shared their experience of awakening. The permanent awakening, the progressive awakening. Both of them openly talk about it, which in the past, this information was not readily available. Maybe just teacher to a select handful of students they would share. But in the times, I think, I really appreciate their sharing. And in the times when more and more people are waking up, it's really great to have someone that you respect, that has been through this process, that can share with you their experience, while not trying to put their experiences on you, telling you that you're a unique expression and that your unfolding will, by design, be different. Thank you to these two men for that. And in my humble way, I'm putting myself out there and sharing my own personal awakening, knowing full well that by doing so, you open yourself to criticism. By going out there and putting yourself on YouTube, by creating a page on Facebook, you're making yourself available for criticism. And my only response to this is that the good outweighs the bad. If there's criticism out there for anything that I said, bring it on. I welcome it. Maybe it'll take me a while to embrace it, because I'm like most people, criticism is not my favorite. To be criticized from the outside, from others, is certainly not my favorite human activity. Yet at the same time, I am able to be extremely self-critical. So, I have no credentials. I claim no credentials. I don't represent any lineage. I certainly have no desire to create any kind of organization, spiritual or otherwise, religious organization that Facebook pigeonholed me into. But I've always been a round peg, trying to fit in a square hole. But I mentioned pigeonhole. I love this word. A pigeonhole assigned to a particular category, typically an overly restrictive one. Thank you, Facebook. Yes, pigeonholed me into a religious organization. And you suspect that if you're pigeonholed into a religious organization, that credentials, that you'd be pastor so-and-so or grandmaster something. But I sit before you, happily proclaiming that I am credentialless, as are the people that I admire most. Thank you.